everyone! So this video is a non-spoiler review of Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. I never really planned to read this book in the month of May. It was not on my TBR, it was not on my Bad of Books TBR. I read it during the readathon, but I never planned to. Pretty much what pushed me to read it is I was just not in the mood for the book I was currently reading, and I didn't want to get into a slump, so I was like, I'm going to pick a book that I really am interested in and I really want to read. And I saw Maybe Someday on my shelf, and I was like, I've never read a Colleen Hoover book, and I really want some contemporary. So I randomly picked it off my shelf and started reading it at 7:30 at night. I read it in one sitting until like 12:30 a.m. Wow, this book had a huge impact on me emotionally, and I could not put it down. Just couldn't. There was no point in this book that I could put it down. I had to keep reading, and I had to figure out what was going to happen with these characters. So I'm not going to go too much into a summary because I really think it's best going into this book not knowing too much about the plot, because it does throw some curveballs at you. But essentially it's about a girl named Sydney, and she discovers that her boyfriend is cheating on her, and her life kind of spirals out of control, and she ends up moving into an apartment with this guy named Ridge, and they kind of hit it off. And I'm not going to go more than that because there's so many curveballs thrown at you from beginning to end, and I don't want to spoil anything. So yeah, I will be doing a spoiler discussion of this book because I have to talk about my emotions and I have to talk about things that happen. So that will be either linked on the screen or in the description. And if you've read this book, please go watch that and please go comment on it, and we can talk about all of the crazy stuff that went down in this book. So, yeah, we have our two main characters, Sydney and Ridge, and it does alternate points of view, which I love. I really, really love alternating points of view, especially in romance books. This is sort of a new adult romance. I wouldn't say it's inappropriate at any point in time. There's not a lot of graphic or sexual content, but it does deal with people in their 20s, and it is, I would say, for the emotionally mature. The book makes you feel so many emotions that I think it's only appropriate for people who are able to handle those emotions. And that sounds like crazy because it's just a book, but this book is just wow, like wow. So whenever you look at this cover, I think it looks like a cute little contemporary, like a little summer contemporary, maybe about music. I thought it would be pretty, light. This book is very deep. It is very deep, very painful. I cried through most of the book. At some points, I was full on sobbing. This book just evokes so many emotions, and especially towards the middle, it really made me angry, made me frustrated. Not because the book itself was bad, but just what was going on in the book, what the characters were feeling, what the characters were going through, made me feel their pain and made me feel their frustration. At one point, I really threw this book across the room. I really did, because I was that frustrated. I do have to warn you that this book does deal with cheating and adultery, and I personally did not know that going into this book. Honestly, I'm gonna say if I did know that, it would make me a little hesitant to read it, because I've never really read a book about cheating. This is my first one, so but it was not something I was interested in. However, I think this book did a very nice job with the topic, and I don't think it took it overboard. I felt that it took a realistic approach to it and really explored all of the complications that come along with it, but it did make it into a very heartbreaking emotional roller coaster. So this book is definitely one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far. Just, oh my gosh, just the way it made me feel. It left me in this huge book hangover. I mean, I started off reading it because I didn't want to get into a reading slump, but it therefore put me into a reading slump because I could not stop thinking about it, could not stop thinking about these characters. There is like a soundtrack that goes along with the book, and I'll link it below if you want to go listen to the songs. And I bought the soundtrack on iTunes. I've been listening to it, and every time I hear certain songs, it makes me tear up because it makes me think about the characters. But in the middle of the book, I would say it was the most painful and the most frustrating. But the resolution and the ending made everything perfect and made me feel some sort of emotional mending, and it left off with happy tears instead of sad, frustrating, angry tears, which is a very good thing. So I think Colleen Hoover created such an original and unique story, and I'm so excited to read more of her books because she definitely knows what she's doing. Although I don't know if I'm emotionally prepared for more of her books, but I am definitely looking forward to reading them. So those are my thoughts on Maybe Someday. I do recommend it to people who are looking for new adult, but new adult that doesn't have as much sexual content, and also people who really like Jamie Maguire's books like Beautiful Disaster, Walking Disaster. This book kind of gave me some of the similar feelings, and if you're looking for a book that will really capture you and make you feel all of the feels. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you have read this book, please go watch my spoiler discussion so we can talk about all the crazy stuff that happened. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.